Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome. My name is Tiffany O'Neill, and I'm the Executive Director for the Sonoma State University Alumni Association. Thank you for joining us for today's webinar, Tackling the Job Search in the Age of COVID-19, which is co-sponsored by the Sonoma State University Career Center and the Alumni Association. We recognize this is an extraordinary and difficult time for many, and that we're here to provide resources to support you during this time and in the future. We're excited to spend the next hour with you sharing helpful information that will assist you in your career search. Before we begin, I want to share a few things. Today's presentation is being recorded and will be available to you after the program. The presentation, along with a post-event survey, will be emailed to you this afternoon. We'd appreciate you taking a few minutes of your time to complete the survey to provide feedback on the content of today's webinar. Both the chat and the Q&A features are enabled during the webinar. As you think of questions related to the presentation, please go ahead and leave them to us in the Q&A feature. We'll have a moderator and we'll have about 15 minutes at the end of the presentation to answer questions that come through. Thank you also to those who have already sent in questions at the time of your registration. We've received those as well. If you have any comments or technical issues, you can put those in the chat feature and we'll address those as needed. At this time, I'd like to acknowledge this program was a collaboration between the Career Center and the Alumni Association at Sonoma State. Before I introduce our speaker, I'd like to introduce Audra Verrier, Career Center Coordinator, who will be facilitating the Q&A at the end of the presentation. Audra brings a wealth of knowledge to her role and is an advocate for empowering students and alumni to be active participants in their career development process. And I'm personally grateful for Audra for her collaboration on several of our programs. Next, I have the honor of introducing today's speaker, Katie Russo, who happens to also be an alumna of Sonoma State. Katie serves as the Director of Alumni Career Engagement at the University of California, Los Angeles. In this role, she has been responsible for creating and delivering all career and professional development programming and resources for UCLA alumni, a population of over 500,000 people across the globe. Prior to this role, Katie was the Associate Director for Partnership UCLA Alumni Career Programs, where she collaborated with UCLA alumni, employers, faculty and staff, and community partners to engage them in professional development opportunities to support students preparing for the workplace and life after UCLA. Before arriving at UCLA, Katie spent 2 years in the Career Center at Colorado State University. Though her career has been focused in career development, she is passionate about first-generation student initiatives, as she is a first-generation alumna herself, as well as diversity, inclusion in the workforce and workplace, access and equity, leadership development, and the opportunity divide. Katie is a California native and received her MA in Higher Education Leadership from the University of San Diego and her Bachelor's of Arts, and she's a Hutchins Liberal Studies grad from Sonoma State. And we're excited to be collaborating with her as well on this program. Katie, I'll turn the program over to you at this time.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Tiffany. And hello, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar. So we will go ahead and get started. So as Tiffany said, she shared the background about myself, and the one thing I do want to point out, like she mentioned, is I'm a Hutchins graduate from Sonoma State University, and I am so grateful for my academic experience at Sonoma State that really gave me such a strong liberal arts critical thinking skill set that has prepared me well for the career that I have today, that requires so much of those skills: communication, teamwork, relationship building, problem solving, program management. I really credit my education at Sonoma State for preparing me for the career that I have. As she said, first generation college student, and I've been at UCLA for almost 3 years now. So just a few other notes for this presentation. Like Tiffany mentioned, the slide deck will be shared with attendees in a follow-up email, so don't feel pressure to take copious notes throughout the time today. Additionally, my presentation is not the be-all end-all. I'm going to share best practices, but I am just one person with recommendations and advice, so just keep that in mind. Additionally, the job search is a process, and so I want you to think about that. It's not always linear, but it is an investment of time and energy, and so give yourself grace, especially in this unprecedented time, to figure out what works best for you, but also commit to setting aside time to make progress on your goals. And then lastly, no job search is the same, especially in 2020. The job search is not a one size fits all. My goal here today in the hour that we have is to provide some job search tips and best practices for you all, and some resources that maybe you haven't been exposed to before that you can utilize for networking and tapping into the hidden job market. So here's just kind of the outline of how we'll spend our time today, some of the content areas that I'll talk about. So first, obviously, I want to just acknowledge the moment. This is a truly unprecedented time, and I think many of those of you who have been affected by COVID-19 and also even the recent class of 2020 graduates, things look much different than you probably expected. So I want you to focus on what you can do and what you can control at this time. Think about tangible action steps for your job search, and I'm going to talk about those in a little bit. Also acknowledge that any layoff or job loss comes with different emotions of grief and loss. So keeping that in mind, I recommend adjusting expectations for yourself around productivity and momentum accordingly. Truly give yourself grace and figure out what's best for you while also making sure you take care of yourself at this time. Another thing I want to suggest is prioritize short-term goals and financial needs over long-term career goals. So figure out what you really need in this moment and prioritize those short-term goals rather than the overarching long-term goal. And lastly, one of the things that I'll hopefully help you with today is exploring new resources and lean into your network. That is what you have a professional network for. That's what your classmates and fellow alumni from Sonoma State are for. Lean into your network and figure out, who can support you during this time. So one question I've been getting a lot during this time, and some of you even submitted it through your registration, is should I even still job search during this time, right? It's very, unsteady, and there's so many unknown factors. Do I even job search? And especially for those that are maybe still employed, but you were looking to leave the job or job search and now you're not sure. And the answer is yes, right? Ultimately, you can't get the job if you don't apply. And so yes, you should definitely still be searching and applying and putting your name in the hat for those roles that really speak to your interests and experience. And so some of the things I'm gonna talk about now are some of those action steps and things you can do in this time as you are job searching, but also finding ways of maybe you have a little more flexibility with your time now to be able to kind of build up your skill sets and things of that nature. So one suggestion is think about, if there's any skill gaps, or if you're looking at a certain job and you feel like maybe you don't meet all the qualifications and there's some areas you could really, improve your subject matter expertise or skills, think about resources like LinkedIn Learning and Coursera. So there's a number of online courses or trainings available on LinkedIn, especially. It's in different areas of business, creative, technology. I've listed a few sample topics there: project management, Google Analytics. But think about, exploring LinkedIn Learning and Coursera. There's really amazing trainings from fantastic professionals and industry leaders on both of those websites. The next biggest thing you can do right now, especially as I mentioned in being able to focus on what you can do and can control, is working on your job materials. You want to make sure that when that job posting comes along that you're really excited to apply to, you want to make sure that you don't have to spend a lot more time getting your application materials ready. So take this time to refine and update your resume, both your master resume, which is your complete job history. That may be, depending on where you're at in your career. I know we have a mix of individuals on the webinar today that are maybe, mid-level, senior level, and then also entry level. So depending on how much work experience you've had, you'll have that master resume, which is really all the jobs you've had, all the experience you've had. And then you're also going to have your tailored resumes. So for example, if you're applying to marketing jobs, you should have a tailored one-page marketing resume that really has the most relevant experience for marketing roles to share with those employers. So make sure both your master resume and your tailored resumes for specific job functions are ready to go when you are preparing to apply to those jobs. Another thing is update your LinkedIn profile. So refresh, maybe your profile summary, make sure your sections are updated, and become more active on the platform. Once again, like I said, lean into your network. You also want to make sure that you have a strong cover letter framework so that that's ready for when it's time for you to apply. And last, another thing you can do during this time is reflect on your work experience and examples, and make sure that you have specific examples and stories for interviews. You really want to ensure that you have kind of that go-to memory bank of experiences to share when you get in those interviews and they ask you those behavioral questions of, tell me about a time you demonstrated leadership or, dealt with a conflict. So think about some of those situations so you kind of have those ready to go in your memory bank. So the next thing I'm going to talk about is I'm going to talk a bit about the applicant tracking system and how those are affected when you are applying to jobs, especially at the large companies and submitting resumes into what may sometimes feel like the black hole. I'm going to talk to you about ATS and give you some helpful tips to try to prepare your resume to hopefully beat those resume robots and get your resume in front of a person. So ATS is the applicant tracking system. It's software that captures candidate data through an online job application, stores it in a database that's searchable and sortable so that recruiters or hiring managers, the HR team, can go in here and access your application. It automatically scans and scores your resume. And those are just a few top ATS brands. So some of you may recognize them. A lot of the big companies, especially Fortune 500, will utilize those to help them screen applicants better. So the challenge here, right, is that if the system doesn't determine that your resume is a strong enough match for the position, your resume may never be seen by a person. And I know that is sometimes doesn't sound great or feel good, and it's not a fun reality, but it is the truth. And so hopefully some of the tips I share with you today can help you refine your resume so it is better suited for the applicant tracking system. And so one question I want you to think about, you can take a moment to think about this percentage, is what percentage of large companies do you think are using ATS? So take a moment, think about that. You've got your number. Over 90% of large companies use applicant tracking systems, and this is from JobScan, which I'll talk about a little bit later. But just keep that in mind that, right, they're receiving probably over 250 applications for specific jobs, and this helps them really kind of sift through all those applications and find the best qualified individuals to reach out to for interviews. So I want to talk a little about the keyword matching for ATS and how the system goes about comparing your resume for the job that you've applied to. So a few key tips here. One is the frequency. So if a word appears more often in a job description, it should also appear more often in your resume. So you want to make sure that the keywords on your resume match up well with the keywords mentioned in the job description. So as you're looking at a job description, really, kind of dissect the description of what they say the role is going to do. What are those list of qualifications or requirements they're asking for in terms of the skill set they expect you to bring, and make sure that those keywords are matching up and they match up frequently. Another thing to highlight is verb tense. So you want to match the tense used in a job description with the tense on your resume. So for example, if a job description says designed, and you have design, maintain that parallel structure and think about tweaking it to match the job description. So there's an example there I put of how you could, tweak your verbiage so that design can be how you've led content design. And then last here is abbreviations and versions. So you want to write out and abbreviate acronyms. So for example, Bachelor of Arts, BA in Sociology. That way the system, if it's set up for Bachelor of Arts or if it's set up BA, it will pick up both. A few other things. So file type. ATS will usually specify acceptable file types. I know when you've all applied to jobs, right, it'll say like, PDF, doc, all the different file types that are acceptable, but Word doc or docx is generally read more easily by the ATS system than PDF. So keep that in mind. Another huge thing, and I really can't stress this enough, is consistent formatting. All your section headings should be formatted identically. So for example, if you have work experience, education, all those sections should be identically formatted, as well as all your job titles and dates. Everything should be consistent there so that the system recognizes the same items on your resume. Another big thing is standard fonts. So I know perhaps some of you that are in more design-oriented roles, have more, design-focused resumes and have maybe some more images or things like that, but you want to use universal fonts that are compatible with most systems. So, the classics, Arial Times New Roman. You can Google web-safe fonts or universal fonts and find a full list there of some options to choose from. And then lastly, most of you probably know this already, but I do still see them occasionally, so I did want to point this out. There should be no objective statements at the top of your resume. Objective statements are outdated now, and everyone knows the objective of that resume is to get you a job, or to at least get you the interview. So no objective statements are needed at any longer. A few other things to keep in mind when it comes to formatting and design for your resume. So these are a few things you want to avoid or really minimize, especially when it comes to getting your resume through ATS. So you want to avoid or minimize a lot of graphics or images. ATS is only built to recognize text, so keep that in mind. Also, text boxes, those can get really clunky and the system has a hard time reading in text boxes. So think about that. And that also brings me to another point, that is, I highly recommend not using any resume templates that are provided to you from Microsoft Word. They actually end up being really hard to move things around because it is formatted in a lot of different text boxes and templated items that are really hard to adjust. So minimize or avoid text boxes for sure. And another thing is columns and tables. Columns are more so, I would say, avoid than the tables. Tables you can get by with a little bit in ATS, but columns are definitely more difficult for the system to read. Some things you can include. So colors are okay. I'd say 1 to 2 is fine, 3 max. And so if you do have a more design or creative resume, don't feel like it has to be purely black and white, but you do want to have minimal colors. And then if you are going to add any type of design elements or color, the name or header part of your resume with your contact information is the safe area to add design elements, because the system won't be scanning there for keywords. Another thing to keep in mind with ATS is the system actually weighs your content differently. So if you have hard skills on your resume, for example, those that are technical and job specific, and as I've shown you kind of on the right with some examples there, programming, Adobe Photoshop, social media marketing, if you have those skills, the system will actually give more weight to those skills than it will the transferable skills or soft skills, as people say. I always call them transferable skills, but those are more of your interpersonal skills, people skills, right? So leadership, flexibility, problem solving, but it will weigh the hard skills more. So you do want to make sure if you have those technical skills or specific expertise in some of those areas, making sure you highlight that enough so that it gets matched up with the job if it is more technical. Additionally, it will also weigh the sections of your resume in different value categories. So the section that will be weighed the most important is your most recent job title and description. From there it will be previous experience. Obviously the newer experience gets weighted more than the older. Third will be education, and then last would be weighted the least would be your expertise or skills in any other sections on your resume. So another trivia question for you as we're talking about resumes, and you're probably thinking about yours, you may even have it pulled up at this time. What's the average amount of time that a recruiter or hiring manager spends reviewing your resume? So think about this for a second, and you have your multiple choice answer in mind. And if you guessed B, 7 seconds, you're right. A 7-second scan to determine if you should be called for an interview. So I know that seems crazy probably, especially because for many of us, we have work on our resumes for a long amount of time and refine it and have people look at it and go back and make more edits. But I want you to think about this average time, especially as you work on your resume, to make the best first impression. But also I say this to empower you to, don't make yourself crazy of your resume. Yes, you should feel confident about your document and you should own it. And even from getting feedback or a few eyes on it, ultimately make the edits and updates that you feel best about, but don't make yourself crazy. That's what I'm going to leave you with there. A few other things to keep in mind, as I was talking about earlier, just thinking about the reality of applying to jobs, especially at some of these larger companies. This is from Glassdoor, which shared in a recent report that corporate job openings attract about 250 resumes. Out of these, 4 to 6 candidates will be interviewed, and then only 1 will get the job offer. I share this not to be discouraging by any means, but just to allow you to think about this. And I think this will help as I kind of talk through the next section of hidden job market and how, yes, you can still, yes, you should still apply to these jobs, but also think about ways you can do it strategically where you might be able to utilize connections to help you, get that first interview. And then another thing I wanted to highlight, this is from the National Association of Colleges and Employers. They do a job outlook survey every year. They survey employers across a wide variety of industries, so everything from engineering, nonprofit, government. And they ask employers, what are the skills that you're seeking in new hires, or what do you look for in a candidate's resume? So just want to share this so that you all can think about especially that transferable skill set that you have and that I'm sure Sonoma State prepared you with. The 2 highest by far are problem-solving skills and ability to work in a team. From there, you can see communication, leadership are some other really important ones, but think about making sure that on your resume, the experiences you've had dictate some of these skills and demonstrate to your employer how you have this skill set and that you'll be able to bring this to your next role. So one of the great resources as we were talking about the ATS systems that I want to highlight to you all is JobScan. So you're probably wondering, okay, well, how do I even compare these keywords and how do I do that to make sure my resume is really fitting the job description? So JobScan, the website's just jobscan.co. It's an online tool for the open job market that's built from algorithms in the top ATS systems. So it allows you to compare your job description on one side, your resume on the other side, and show you how well the keywords match up in both of those to help you kind of increase your prospects and getting past the resume robots. So the goal for JobScan is they really hope that they can help you match your keywords in those tailored resumes that you're working on to help you get more interviews. So now we're going to talk a little bit about the hidden job market. So research shows that at least 70% of jobs are never posted to the public or maybe made available to the company careers website. And when we say the hidden job market, I do want to point out that when I say hidden, it doesn't mean that it's like secret or private or it's unattainable. It really just means that there are opportunities that come up for a number of companies that may get shared internally first with, hey, right, how many times have we all received emails from our own organizations? Hey, we're down this person on this team, we're hiring for this role. So there may be internal communication that goes out first and allows the current employees to reach out to their networks and try to solicit folks to apply. And if the right people apply, it may not even end up getting posted to the company website. So like I said, it doesn't mean it's unattainable, but the hidden job market is really those opportunities that are shared through kind of networks or other more, I'd say not as widely spread methods so that people can apply through networks and current channels of the company. So many of you probably heard this a million times, especially when it comes to networking, but I can't stress this enough that really it's not what you know, it's who you know. And so not only is it the people that are currently in your network, but I'm going to show you, there's ways to add more people to your network that are either in your industry, or if you're thinking about, wanting to pivot to a different industry and you're like, I don't have any contacts there or know anyone, there are resources that can allow you to seek out some of those people and start building connections so that you can have a more robust professional network. So one of the tools I want to talk about that I think is most valuable when it comes to tapping into the hidden job market is informational interviews. Some of you may be familiar with informational interviews or have done one of them before, but if you're not, informational interviews are really exactly what they sound like, which is it's an interview to get information. Another term I use for them is career chat. It really is just a get to know your career conversation. So it's reaching out to someone for 20 to 30 minutes, asking them about their career path. So let's say you find someone on LinkedIn that is working in a role that you'd love to work in, or they work at a company that you'd love to work at someday. Reaching out for an informational interview is allowing you to say, hey, I would love to learn more about your current role at blank company. Can you tell me a little about your career path? Maybe what advice would you have for someone like me if I was looking to, secure a similar type role? What does a typical day look like, right? Like what is a day in the life? We all know that there's jobs we might have in our head that look much different in our head or on paper than they do in real life played out. And I'm sure many of you have experienced that. I have myself. And informational interviews are a fantastic way of allowing you to get that insight before you maybe make the leap or you spend all your time and energy applying to these jobs that maybe it's not the right fit for you. And so I can't stress enough how valuable these are. And I think there's a lot of people who are more than willing to share 20, 30 minutes of their time, especially right now when people are more accessible because most of us are at home and work looks so different. And so there's more flexibility, I think, for many in their schedules to be able to do things like this. So the stories I'll share and informational interviews have been invaluable for me. So one of the stories I can share that actually led me to my current role today is that I was leaving my last job in Colorado and I was moving back to California. I quit my job and said, okay, I'm moving back. I didn't have anything lined up at that time. I was applying to things. And I was, looking in Los Angeles area, looking at universities. Obviously UCLA was, first top of mind for me. And I found that I had a connection at Colorado State that worked with a woman who did career programming in alumni affairs at UCLA. So I found on LinkedIn, we had a mutual connection. I was looking up some of the different teams. And so I reached out to my Colorado State connection and said, hey, would you be willing to connect me to this woman at UCLA? I'm not sure your relationship with her, but it'd be great if you could share contact information or something like that. So she sent me contact information for this woman. And she said, yeah, she'd be happy to, hear from you. And I was like, great. So got back to California. I sent her an email and said, hey, I would love just 30 minutes of your time. I saw what you're doing at UCLA. It looks like a really cool role. I'm just curious to learn more about it, how you got there. So reached out, we set up a phone call. Like I said, I asked for 30 minutes. We ended up talking for an hour. And at that time, obviously I didn't see anything on UCLA's job board that really spoke to what I was looking for. And so I just let this woman know, hey, I really admire the work you're doing. If anything comes up, I would love to keep in touch. And if you could keep me in mind, that'd be great. And then kind of, went from there. And so once I finished the call, I sent her a quick thank you note, email. And that was in probably like mid-July. Sure enough, about a month later, I was still searching and things like that. And I got an email from the same woman who said, hey, Katie, we have 2 open positions on our team. I'm not really sure if this is what you're looking for, but based on our call, I thought I would share these roles with you. If you're interested, feel free to send me your resume. I'll pass along to the hiring manager. Just let me know. Sure enough, I opened the position. I'm like, oh my gosh, this is totally something I'm looking to do. And I applied, sent her my resume, and from there, interviews, and the rest is history. And so that's how I landed my job at UCLA, was through an informational interview. And I tell people all the time, I'm not sure that I would have gotten this job because it was so competitive and there were so many applicants if I hadn't already reached out to that woman, learned more about her career, asked really thoughtful questions to give me insight of if I think this is the type of work I want to do next. And then from making a good impression, she thought of me when that position came open. So I honestly can't stress how helpful these can be because really they lead to more career opportunities than you can probably imagine initially. So a few other things I want to highlight when it comes to the importance of networking, especially for referrals, is employee referrals have the highest applicant to hire conversion rate. So while only 7% of applicants come from referrals, this small number actually accounts for nearly half of all hires at 40%. So that's a pretty big deal. Also, employees that are hired through referral are hired 55% faster than those who come through a normal career site. Additionally, this report from JobBite shared that online job boards are still the most popular for posting job openings, and 69% of applicants are using those to apply to jobs. But most workers also find out about job postings through their friends. So 45% said friends, 42% said social media such as LinkedIn, and then 31% said their professional connections told them about job opportunities. So LinkedIn, now I'm going to get into showing you a few great things on LinkedIn if you're wondering, right? Especially thinking about tapping into that hidden job network or hidden job market, and also informational interviews. Like I said earlier, you might be saying, well, I don't know where to even find these people. So LinkedIn is going to become your best friend, especially when it comes to job searching and networking. As of 2020, there's over 690 million members, which is crazy, all across the globe. And then here's some quick statistics from LinkedIn. They put out a job hunting handbook, I think about 2 years ago. And I won't read all of these, but I'll let you just kind of take a look. I may highlight one or two, but I think these statistics really highlight the importance of not only making sure that you have a positive online career presence or professional presence with LinkedIn, but that also the importance of networking through your job search, and how that really doing that strategically and thoughtfully will open those doors for you. So as you're probably not surprised, 75% of hiring managers said they look at a LinkedIn profile to learn more about a candidate's background. 50% of those same hiring managers will decide whether or not to move forward with the candidate's application based on their LinkedIn profile. So you really want to feel good about what you have on there, so that when someone looks you up, it only confirms that they're like, oh, this person is awesome, they're totally qualified, you know, totally what we're looking for. Additionally, another thing I want to highlight in these stats is 56% of those same hiring managers report candidates did not describe their job roles with enough depth and detail on LinkedIn. So really think about, as you're filling out your profile, especially that experience section, you don't want to just put like, oh, I worked for X company, this was my job title. That description section is really for you to talk about, what did you accomplish there? What are projects you worked on? What are skills you gained? How did you walk away from that experience a better professional? What are the areas you learned and grew professionally in? So highlight that in your description section for your experiences. That way, you know, recruiters and hiring managers are getting a strong enough sense of, oh, okay, they've done this type of work before, or they're absolutely qualified for this role. So those are just a few stats that I wanted to share with you all. So LinkedIn Alumni Tool is a fantastic resource on the platform, and I'm going to go to LinkedIn now to show you this tool. So now that you're on LinkedIn, so you're on the homepage, the easiest way to get here is you just type in Sonoma State. And once you're on the Sonoma State page, the school, like the university page on LinkedIn, you're going to go over here and click Alumni. So as you can see, there's over 48,000 Sonoma State alumni on LinkedIn. And what you can do in here, and like I said, this is your best place to find contacts to add to your network or reach out to for informational interviews, conversations, more networking. So you can sort by where they live. You can also sort by where they work, as you can see. And then you can also click next here. And this is even more important, I think, too, is what they do. So looking at the industries that these alumni work in and what they studied. So even for some of our more like recent graduates or younger alumni, if you're like, hey, I study sociology, I'm still figuring out what I want to do with that, you can click sociology and figure out what are sociology alumni from UCL or from Sonoma State doing, and see the diversity of their roles and the industries that they work in. So let's say I was looking for marketing. I was looking to network with more. I wanted to find something in marketing. I live in the Bay Area, so I'm going to sort by San Francisco Bay Area. I'm going to click next here. And in the what they do, I'm going to scroll down and click marketing. And now I have over 1,000 alumni that I can look through. And if I wanted to, like I said, you can click that next. I could, sort it by major, but we all know major does not define career. So I would probably start then looking from here. And then what you'll also see here is it will show the top employers of where those alumni are working. So as you can see, it will always probably show the university at the top as the highest employer, because any current students that work in marketing that are still attending Sonoma State, since that's tagged in their profile, it'll show up as a top employer. But as you can see, Target, Salesforce, Wells Fargo, Athleta, Williams-Sonoma. So if I even wanted to filter it down by company, and as you can see, you can click add here. If I knew I wanted to work at a certain company, I can type in that company and say, hey, are there any Sonoma State alumni working there? Same with where they live, right? If you're outside the US, or if you're in a certain state, you can search, hey, New York City area, wherever. So then I'll scroll down here, and as you can see, I'm going to get a nice sample pool of, here's a sample of all Sonoma State alumni in the San Francisco Bay Area who work in marketing. And what's great is from here, you can see I have shared connections with some of these people. And so, for example, if I wanted to reach out to Wendy St. John, I would probably go to one of my shared connections and say, hey, I saw you're connected to Wendy. I was really curious about her job. Would love if you could connect us. And you can go from there. But the shared connections will help you kind of have that warm contact to reach out to and see, hey, they may have an email. For example, if you contact them on LinkedIn, you may not always get a response, but that person that you have a shared connection with may have contact information to be able to pass along to you. So, definitely go in here. And like I said, utilize the search filters for whatever makes sense for you. Like I said, if you want to use, hey, I'm looking for sociology alumni to kind of see the variety of what they're doing. Also looking in the Bay Area. Now you have 1,300 to look through, and you can see where are these alumni working. Some are in community and social services, all kinds of different things. So that's the alumni tool. Once again, you just type in Sonoma State University at the top, go to the university page, and then you're going to click on alumni on the left side, and you can use the next to filter down to find alumni that fit your kind of interests and needs for not only your job search, but to add to your network. The other thing I want to show you, which is one of LinkedIn's best features, is their job search. So if you go up here and click jobs, you can set up job alerts. So let's say I'm still looking for marketing roles. I'm looking in the San Francisco Bay Area. So I'm going to type in that. So you want to at least enter a keyword and a location. So now it's going to show me there's over 18,000 results. That's a bit overwhelming, as we all can probably agree to. Let's say I am more, mid-senior level. So I'm going to go here to experience level, and I'm going to click mid-senior level. That way I'm, being able to sift through that a little more and not getting, roles that maybe I've passed with my experience. I have way more experience than they, need. So I'll sort it to experience level, mid-senior level. And then you can also see maybe top companies of who has marketing roles. So it'll show you that if you want to search by a specific company, you can do that there as well. And then job type, I click full-time, so you want to apply that. So utilize these filters up in the job search tool for your benefit. They really will help you narrow that huge list of postings down to things that are more relevant for what you're looking for. And then another way you can filter it down even more to help you is, and I've done this for myself multiple times, is I will filter it by date posted. So I'll say, show me things that were posted in the past week, right? If you know it was posted in the past week, it's fresh, new, this company is hiring, they're looking for someone soon. So you can also filter it by past week. Now I have 1,200, much better than 18,000. And then what I can do here is, let's say these are the type of jobs I'm looking for. I can click this little toggle up here that says job alert off. I click job alert. I can select if I want to receive a daily or weekly alert. Totally up to you. Daily is a bit overwhelming for me. When I was doing this in job searching, moving back to California, I set up weekly alerts. You can click email notifications. If you have the LinkedIn app, it's fantastic, and you'll get just the push notifications to your phone there. If you don't have the LinkedIn app, I can't recommend it enough. It's awesome. But if you wanted a weekly email, you click this, click save, and then from there, you'll have that job search alert created. And I set it today on Tuesday, so that means next Tuesday in a week, you'll get a email from LinkedIn that'll say, hey, here's 37 new marketing jobs in San Francisco Bay Area. And you can click right into the email, and it's kind of just this automatic digest of mid-senior level jobs posted in the last week in the categories you're looking for, marketing in the Bay Area. The other nice thing is those job search alerts I just showed you, you can set up to 10 different job search alerts for free on LinkedIn. So you don't have to have, you don't have to have a premium account or anything like that to set those up. So if you're looking for, if you have a few things you're looking for, let's say you're looking for marketing, maybe some public relations, maybe some advertising, maybe some social media marketing or management, you can set up different job search alerts. And if you're also looking for jobs in more than one location, you're open to, relocating, you can set up one for maybe Los Angeles area or, Seattle or wherever you are. So you can set up 10 different free job search alerts. You watched how I did that, keyword, location, and then utilize the filters. And so once again, for my recent grads or younger alumni, I'd go up here, click entry level so that you can find things that are more entry level and kind of starting out your career. So that's the job search tool. And like I said, it's fantastic. You go up here, and once you fill out that information, you can also fill out job search preference information on your profile. When you do that, what's great is it will actually show you here as you scroll down, and the more job search alerts you set up, the better this page will look for you. So it will show you, based on your profile, here's some recommendations we have for you, jobs we think you'd be interested in. So it takes not only what you filled out on your LinkedIn profile, but along with kind of what you've entered in your searches and job search alerts you've set up or career interests you've set up, and it will give you, recommendations and stronger suggestions from there. And then as you can see, it shows me here, I can always manage my alerts, and I can go here and change any of them or delete them and create new ones. Like I said, you can set up to 10 different ones for free. The other thing I want to show you that's really helpful is if you have specific companies in mind that you'd like to work for. Let's say I wanted to work for Hulu. I go here, I click Hulu. You want to make sure you're following these companies on LinkedIn. So as you can see over here on the right, I'm already following it, but there should be a blue follow button. If you're not, you'd click that, and that way recent updates or information about Hulu is going to come through on your feed when you log into LinkedIn. So you'll get, updates of, here's some recent, updates of this is Hulu's Creative Partner Program. As you can see, they've posted 49 jobs recently. So when you go to the company page, you can literally click jobs on the left-hand side, and you can click right into the jobs at that company and then go from there to filter it. So you want to make sure that, I'm sure you all out there have companies or organizations that you admire or that you're fond of and you feel like you could really see yourself there. So, type in those companies on LinkedIn, follow them. You can also set up job search alerts for those specific companies by entering the company in the filter. But it's just another great way to keep abreast of what that company's doing, if they're hiring, seeing those recent updates, and kind of staying in tune with companies that you're looking to find career opportunities at. So those are some of the really, I think, helpful features on LinkedIn. And I definitely will, there'll be another session in the future where I'll talk a little more about LinkedIn itself, of building your profile and things like that. So stay tuned for that. But I think besides that, and then the other thing I did want to show is, okay, let's see, I think we're back, okay. The other thing I did want to mention is making sure that you join any relevant groups on LinkedIn as well. So there is the Sonoma State University Alumni Association LinkedIn group. So join that on there. Once again, follow any companies of interest so that you're getting those updates, and then create those job search alerts, because they really will help you sift through the noise on LinkedIn, and I've utilized them myself. And it's really nice to just get something straight to your email weekly that allows you to see, hey, here's 10, they'll even preview 5 or 10 jobs and see, hey, does anything stand out? You can click right into that posting and go from there. So another thing I want to highlight is actual job search websites. So a lot of these, for many of you, are probably familiar, but I did want to highlight some others that are you maybe haven't heard of as much. So obviously there's Indeed. There's simplyhired.com. Idealist.org is a great one that's more focused on kind of social impact type work, a lot of nonprofit opportunities. LinkedIn, of course, you just saw, is a huge, robust place you should definitely be applying to. Glassdoor is an amazing resource that you can not only job search on, but you can find fantastic information about company and organizational culture, salary insights, so you can use that to kind of help you with future negotiations. Flexjobs.com is a great one too, especially right now, because it focuses on remote work opportunities. So you can maybe find some great things on there. And then ZipRecruiter as well as one other one that's out there for you to job search on. Last few things that I want to share before we get into any Q&A is final tips are, the important thing with your job search is to take it in chunks and track your progress. I know it can feel overwhelming, it can feel intimidating, discouraging for sure, but you want to track your progress. That way it helps you stay motivated and kind of helps you stay on the right path. So the one thing I'd recommend is creating a job search or kind of networking tracking sheet for yourself in either Excel or Google Sheets. I know that helped me a ton as I was finishing up grad school. I had an Excel sheet and I had, the company I was applying for, the role, the date I applied, And then I would kind of track the communication status. If I had like an interview or, I got the rejection email, right? All of those help me keep track of everything versus, digging in your email for all those communications. So keep a job search or kind of networking tracking sheet. If you're doing it more for the networking or informational interviews, you can have one that's informational interviews and you can say, I've reached out to this person, they work at this company, maybe we've set up a phone call on this date. That way everything is in one place and you can kind of track that and see like the progress that you've been making. Another important tip, especially when it comes to applying to jobs, is I can't stress this enough because I've learned the hard way many times. An important tip is if you go and apply for a job, you want to make sure that you copy and paste that job description right away from the website or wherever you found it from LinkedIn and save it in a Word document. Title it Director of Marketing at Hulu and save the job description, because if you apply to that job and they call you for an interview and you go back and go, let me pull up the posting so I can prepare for my interview, right? How many times have some of you, I know this happened to me, I've gone back, posting is gone or expired. And so I highly recommend download that job description, save it to a Word document. You'll have that to reference. That way you're prepared for your interview. So save job descriptions for sure and postings. And then lastly, set aside time weekly or maybe bi-weekly, depending on what works best for your schedule, to make progress on reaching out for informational interviews or applying to jobs. This will help you once again. If you block out some time on your calendar or schedule, it'll help you take it in chunks and it won't feel as overwhelming. But it is also important that you do set aside that time to make progress because it will allow you to keep kind of that forward momentum. So lastly is just stay connected. Obviously, feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn. There's my email there. I'll share that at the last slide as well. I also, from my job, host a career podcast called Brew and Success. It's on Apple, Spotify, wherever you listen to podcasts. And I interview really amazing UCLA alumni that work in a variety of industries. So depending on those of you out there in certain industries, I've interviewed some really great different thought leaders or subject matter experts in industries, and you may find some of the interviews really enjoyable. So definitely check that out as well. Stop my screen share and I will welcome back Audra so that we can have some time for Q&A with you all.
Great. Thank you so much, Katie. This has been awesome information. I have lots of questions coming in. A couple of things just to address before we get into the Q&A. We will be sending you resources afterward in your email, including a recording of the webinar, but Katie has put together a resource list. We've gotten some questions about sharing some of the templates that you were discussing when talking about ATS. Folks asked for the more general resume template as well as the more specific. I think you mentioned a marketing specific resume. And so we will share all of that via email to you after the webinar today. One other question came in about flexjobs.com. It is a paid service. You do have to pay for that to engage in the job boards.
That's right.
At the Career Center, we have vetted that and we're in touch with the company, and we do feel like it is a valuable resource. If you're looking for something that's flexible, remote, part-time, short-term. Do you agree with that, Katie?
Yes, definitely. Yep.
So thanks for that question, Noah. We also got a question about the paid service of LinkedIn Premium. Can you address that?
Yeah, so I would say in terms of, is someone asking the value add or is it worth it?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I would say, LinkedIn Premium, there's different LinkedIn Premiums you can choose from. There's business and career. I would say it's not necessary. For the majority of the time I've had LinkedIn, to be honest, have not had premium, and I've been able to do a lot on the platform without having a premium subscription. I only recently got premium because it's really a fantastic thing for me to have for my job. But I would say it's definitely not needed. It is a good chunk of money. And so you want to think about if you're really going to be utilizing all the features that's kind of laid out in the premium package, then maybe it's worth investing in, but you can do so much with the basic LinkedIn account that I don't think it's a requirement by any means.
Great. And there is also sometimes the option for a free trial with LinkedIn Premium.
Yep.
You try it out before you decide to purchase.
Great point.
I have found that some of the information about who's viewing my profile can be helpful,
Definitely.
especially in those fields where you're looking for that connection with a recruiter. But we're always happy to answer those kinds of questions that are more unique if you want to email the Career Center. And you can also connect with Katie on LinkedIn as well as myself. we're getting some kudos to Katie. Great job on the presentation today.
Thank you.
So could you answer, is it possible to apply for a job that is focused on particular values, work ethics, or culture at the company?
Yeah, that's a fantastic question. And the answer is yes, you definitely can find and apply to jobs that fit, your own personal set of values or things that you care a lot about, things you're passionate about. And the way to do that, I think, is to continue to do company research. So go on the company website, read their About Us page, read their mission, vision, values. Another thing that's great is a lot of companies, will publish some type of annual report. Take a look at that, download that and scan it. And that will, I think, give you a stronger sense of their impact, not only as a business and organization, but also, what are the things that they're putting out in the world? What are they contributing to? So definitely do some research on companies and look at their About Us page, see, and then go on LinkedIn and not only take a look at the company page on LinkedIn, but also see who works there. Take a look at, some employees at those companies. What is, indicated in their professional summary? How long have they been there, right? Like longevity and retention is a huge thing too. So take a look at who's working there and do those people look like people that you'd want to work with, and things like that. So definitely, I would say doing that company research and learning more about them and their values and their impact in society will help you explore if their values are a great fit with your own, or if their mission aligns with kind of what you're wanting to do.
Great, I totally agree. The next question is about what's the best way to balance time efficiency and tailoring your applications? I think this is sort of leaning towards that. Do I have to tailor every single resume for every single job? And
right.
Really
Yeah, this is the $1 million question, right? It's job search is such an investment of time and energy, and it really is a full-time job in itself, which I always tell people, right? Even if you're already working, it's like having another job. I would say, like I mentioned towards the end, really being able to think about, your weekends or after work hours, depending on what your schedule looks like. If you set aside, an hour to 2 hours a week to even to browse postings and bookmark ones you want to apply to, and then say, okay, in the next week in my 2-hour block, I'm going to apply to 2 of those. So think about breaking it down and setting aside that time. And also the thing I would say to that, because I've done this myself, is when that block is there, that calendar hold, stick to it. I know it's easy for us to say, oh, something else has come up, or I want to do this, but try your best to hold on to that calendar block and say, you know what, even if I had a 2-hour block, let me do 1 hour. Let me search, or let me update my resume that's, for this marketing job that I found on LinkedIn. So definitely try your best to not get caught up in taking that block off, and utilize that time you set aside, because it will help you make progress each week. And like I said, if it's every other week, that works too, but figure out if it's, hey, 2 hours on a Sunday afternoon, I'm going to sit down, look at postings and get a cover letter ready for this job I found. Like that is going to help you, and is blocking out that time, and then being able to track your progress in that job search sheet. And that way you'll feel motivated and encouraged to keep going when you see, hey, in the last month, I applied to 4 jobs, and maybe I got called for 1 phone screen. That's awesome. You're making progress and you're moving in the right direction.
Great. I think we have an awesome follow-up to that.
Sure.
After a phone screen interview, should we reach out after the call, or wait for the person that you did the interview with, maybe the hiring manager, to reach out to schedule an interview or a second interview?
Yeah, great question. So after the first phone screen interview, or kind of that initial interview, you definitely want to send a quick thank you email to whoever interviewed you, whether it was the recruiter, hiring manager. So send them a nice courtesy thank you email, thanking them for their time, being able to learn more about the position in the organization, saying, I'm really excited about this opportunity. I look forward to hearing from you soon. If they, especially sometimes too, they might ask you, they might say, hey, could you send along, right? For some jobs, hey, I have this photography portfolio. Would you mind sending that along? So if there's anything that they request in a follow-up, make sure that you send those along as well, so they have everything with kind of your candidate application package. But definitely send a quick follow-up note and express that interest again if it is something, if after the interview you're like, oh my gosh, I love this, I really want the next interview, I feel great about this. Make sure they know that you are really excited about it, you look forward to hearing from them soon, and express their thank you for their time and consideration.
Great. Let's dive into a couple questions about resumes.
Sure.
We have a question about your stance on resume tools like LinkedIn, where you can sort of automatically download that template that LinkedIn gives you,
Mm-hmm.
or where people edit your resume through specific like services where they do editing. Do you think that their feedback is useful?
Yeah, I would say, with resume feedback, you definitely want to get a few sets of eyes on your resume. But I would say, take everything with a grain of salt in terms of what you want your resume ultimately to look like and feel like, and how you want your sections, kind of expressed, and what experience is most important for you to highlight as a candidate. So I would say, in terms of templates, I don't know that I've actually seen some of the resume templates on LinkedIn. I've definitely seen the ones on Microsoft Word. And once again, I will say this, I said it earlier, please don't use those for everything in the world. Please don't use those because they are so difficult for you to adjust any of your information. And I promise you will regret using it after you start filling in the boxes. So Word templates, no. Like I said, I will definitely add a resume kind of starter that's not, that's in a Microsoft Word document. I'll add that to the resource list that you all will receive. So you can kind of work off of that one as a nice template if you feel like, hey, I want to update my resume and have it, be in a better format. But I would say, in terms of paying for paid resume services, it really is up to you. If you feel like you need that extra support in, articulating your experience, or someone that has more of that expertise to help you kind of pull out the skill sets or accomplishments that you've gained from certain experiences, you feel like you don't have that at all in your resume, then it could be worth investing in. But I also think there's plenty of free resources online and through the Career Center at Sonoma State, and so many other fantastic resources where you can get the same information that you would by, paying someone for a resume critique or something like that.
Great. The next one is about resume as well. It's how should we address being unemployed due to COVID-19 on the resume? Should you wait until your interview to talk about the gap? Should you address that on your resume directly?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I think that you can, on your resume, I think you can definitely, for the role that you, lost your job, you can definitely put that end date there. And I think that you would be surprised how many people, right, in this time, people are understanding and they know that you're one of many who have been impacted employment-wise from COVID-19. And so I don't want that to, don't feel like you're alone there. Don't feel like that's going to, reflect negatively on you. You're not alone in that boat. I can't stress that enough. And so I think it is perfectly fine. I don't think you need to come right, forward with it. But if they ask you about that, I think it's perfectly fine to address that your opportunity or the job you had was impacted by COVID-19 and layoffs or whatever that looks like. And I think people are more than willing, more than understanding and supportive of, I get it, and helping you find that next, move in your career. So definitely I would say, don't have to like come right out the gate with it, but if it's asked about, I don't feel like you should feel concerned about letting them know, here's what happened. And I'm searching for the next right opportunity. I'm trying to make progress. This is what I'm looking for. So that'd be my advice there.
Yeah, I would agree. Just to follow up with that, outside of COVID-19, people often do have gaps in their resumes, and you don't always have to write in the resume. That is something that could be reserved for the interview. But it also depends on the unique situation of the individual. I work with alumni, and you are welcome to come and use our services at the Career Center. And so if you have a particular gap that you're concerned about and would like to have some support around that, we're happy to help you answer that question. How can someone be hired in a field that they may not have any experience in?
Oh, yeah, that's a really great question. So I would say for that, if you are looking in a field that you don't have experience in or very limited, and you're feeling like you're not as qualified for maybe some of the roles there, this is where those informational interviews are your go-to tool. So that's where, if it's, let's say it's something if you're looking for something in, advertising, I would reach out to find other Sonoma State alumni who work in advertising and reach out for 20 to 30-minute informational interview, asking them about their career path and their role, and asking them directly, like, what are some of those, maybe asking about resources that they utilize to kind of help them build up their advertising skill set and what's helped them in their job, day to day. Get that insight and advice from resources or other things that you can look into or learn from, so that you can maybe fill in, enhancing your experience or adding to maybe some of your skill gaps, so that you feel more confident in applying to those roles that initially you felt like, I have more limited experience. I don't know that I'll be looked at, as strongly, but those informational interviews will provide you such great insights from alumni. And like I said, you never know if by reaching out, it could be a month or two later, they say, hey, you reached out about advertising jobs, our company, and we actually have a full-time role that just opened up, send me your resume. Like I said, that happens more often than you know from just reaching out and investing time and energy to build that new connection and relationship.
Great. We're just about at time. We have a couple last questions I think we can get
Sure.
quickly.
Yeah, totally.
Are thank yous still a thing after being hired? Yes, 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 yes.
Yep.
It also goes on to ask, should it be done by regular mail or email? Are there recommended formats?
Yeah, great question. Yeah, I echo Audra's multiple yes, yes, yes. Definitely send thank yous. I can't tell you the amount of times that, getting a candidate thank you after an interview, it definitely, I do take note of that. I do take note of the person investing that time and energy to express their interest and thank you for the time that you've invested as the interviewer. So definitely send that thank you note. As far as method for thank yous, email is perfectly acceptable in our day and age. Absolutely sending a quick email to that interviewer or hiring manager. I would say if you really want a job, if you feel like this is it, I love the people that work here, I totally feel so excited about this, a handwritten, like a thank you note mailed, but hand mailed, that is going to go a long way. And I can tell you that I actually remember my first job after grad school. For the job I took in Colorado, I stayed after the interview in the lobby and I wrote about 15 different handwritten thank you cards and dropped them off at the lobby. So that's may not always be the case, and no one's saying you have to do that, but if you know that it's something that I really want this, send one thank you card to the hiring manager, and then maybe thank you emails to anyone else that you interviewed with. But it definitely does make an impact.
Great. I also agree. And for some companies, like Sonoma State, for example, thank yous can't really be shared with the committee. So just keep that in mind. It is really a good idea to send that card to your main hiring person or manager, the person who organized your interviews, and save the emails for the other people. You can send them. They're not supposed to consider that in hiring.
Right.
The other, but it always goes a long way to just show gratitude.
Yeah, 100%.
We just had another question about resumes, so I'm going to follow up with that one online because we do need to sign off with everybody today.
Sure.
I want to answer one last question, which is from one of our current students.
Okay, great.
Senior at Sonoma State, and she asked, how much should I be doing for my job search leading up to graduation?
Love this question. Okay, senior at Sonoma State, I will tell you right now that the best advice I can give you is to start early and once again, take it in chunks and small goals. So like most people, a lot of students wait until the month that they're graduating to start looking at job postings, but you're trying to get everything done with finals and figure out graduation and everything. And that's a lot. And so start early, and especially in that last year, take advantage of opportunities on campus and opportunities that the Career Center is providing through their programming to connect with professionals that are in jobs that you want to go into. So, when you leave college and when you graduate, you will never have those resources and those free, for the most part, free events and programs that offices like the Career Center provides and offers students. And so take advantage of attending those networking events or, a networking session on Zoom or things like that, because that will pay off. I can't even express, it'll just be so beneficial in the long run by you investing your time and energy to start meeting people and building that network. Because like I said, it really does lead to the opportunities. The more you get to know people, the more you share what you're interested in doing, then someone says, oh, hey, my cousin works there, or my cousin works in marketing. And then that can lead to, opening a door for you as well. So, as you're starting your senior year, think about, what type of jobs you're looking for. What are you passionate about? What are the things you want to do? And do those informational interviews. If you're still figuring that out, that's okay. No one says you have to have it figured out, but the informational interviews will also help lead to those insights that let you say, hey, this is the type of job I want, or this is the industry I want. I can see myself starting my career in. So do informational interviews and break that down. Like I said, set aside time in your calendar. I know you're busy, especially as a senior, you will be, but Doing that at the start of your year and going throughout the year and making progress will hopefully allow you to get to the end of, your senior year and graduate with a full-time opportunity that you can start in the summer.
Great. I couldn't agree more. And for any students that are on the line, make sure that you are on Handshake. You're seeing the announcements that are going out in emails that we send. Alumni, you too can join us on Handshake. It's our internal job board at Sonoma State. All of the resources that are available to you on the website to students are also available to alumni. And there's a special area for you to learn more about how you can connect to the Career Center. So that's just career.sonoma.edu. We want to thank you, Katie, so much for today. This was awesome. So much valuable information. There was a lot of discussion and chat and questions going on behind the scenes.
Awesome.
I tried to answer everything as much as possible. Some of it will be in those resources that we follow up out to everyone that Katie has put together, and we're going to add in a few things based on your questions.
Yeah, totally.
We've gotten lots of thank yous and kudos, and we also want to thank the participants. Thank you all for being here with us today, for asking great questions, for being engaged. Thank you to the SSU Alumni Association and the board and all the members who are online today, sending some questions in behind the scenes to see if we're staying on top of things. We will be sending out those resources, as I said. In addition, we'll be sending out the webinar recording. You can feel free to share that with other alumni friends. Follow us on social media, both the Alumni Association and the Career Center on social. We're on LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, etc., and would love to stay connected with you. We do have a second workshop coming up, so that information will also be coming out in the email follow-up. And let us know what else you need, what other questions you have, what's coming up for you in your job search that we might be able to address in those upcoming workshops. So thank you all so much. Any closing words today, Katie?
I was just going to say, thank you again for joining us. I'm excited. We have 2 more sessions coming up in this series that I'm going to be helping with. So feel free to, we really can't stress enough, please fill out that feedback survey that you'll get in the follow-up email. Let us know if this was helpful. Let us know, like Audra said, what else would be helpful. And then connect with me on LinkedIn. I know she said a lot of questions came in. We're going to do our best in that resource link sheet. I'm sending a lot of resources that will be shared out. Hopefully that will cover a lot of questions or things you're looking for. But if there's other questions that didn't get answered in our time today, feel free to follow up with me on LinkedIn, or I have my Gmail as well will be shared out, and you can reach out to me in email, and I'm happy to answer any follow-up questions that you feel like didn't get covered today. So thank you again, connect with me, and definitely fill out the feedback survey so we can continue to provide helpful career programming for you, especially during this time.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. Have a wonderful day, everyone. We'll stay connected online.
Bye.